So it's really trying to reconnect with that inner child that may have enjoyed doing something that maybe, it's okay to build Lego I think men want to be seen, they want to be heard. Like everybody, we've all got that inner child that just wants people. We're losing that connection piece through technology. Technology was designed to help us. I think it's having an opposite effect in some areas, particularly when it comes to...
In an industry built on strength, endurance and resilience, it's easy to forget that sometimes we're not okay. This episode of Building Doors shines a light on a conversation many in construction infrastructure avoid: the raw reality of mental health. My guest, Nick Mair, knows firsthand what it means to hit a wall, to face the silence that often surrounds men in our industry, and to turn that pain into purpose. Nick founded Pack Mentality Group, centred around a community giving men a safe space to talk without labels, without judgment, without the word mental health needing to be attached. His story is one of honesty and courage, and it challenges us all to rethink what strength really looks like in construction today. Together, we talk about how men are redefining their place in a changing world, the silent toll of long hours and isolation, and how we can build environments that don't just value performance, but also well-being. But this episode isn't just for men. It's for anyone who's ever struggled to admit they're not okay. For too long, construction has carried the unspoken rule that mental health is something that we deal with in private. But as Nick reminds us, the cost of silence is far too high. This is an episode about being brave enough to say, I'm not okay, and building a culture where that's not the end of the story, but the start of a new beginning. Thank you for coming on the podcast, Nick.
Yes, sorry.
I know it's always going to be a lot of fun with you.
Yeah.
But of course, we're also talking about, quite a serious topic as well, and some stark statistics, that you shared with me recently about what's facing men in particular around mental health. So before we get stuck into it, first, tell me about why you founded and started Pack Mentality Group.
Good question. Yeah, it was back in 2023. I was in a corporate gig and I felt that I was on the merry-go-round as such. And internal recruitment, as you know, it's very process driven, and that's the complete opposite to someone like myself with ADHD. I was just on that constant cycle, and I felt myself getting lower and lower, and then eventually got to the point where I'd made the decision that I think it's time to end my life as such. Went into this amazing blissful state at the awareness or the acknowledgement of, yep, this is the decision. And if you've ever done meditation or relaxation techniques, it's like you're floating. This was like by 1,000. And then I got in touch with Lifeline, thought I'm in real trouble. And had a fantastic conversation with a counsellor there who only said, tell me more. That's all he virtually said, and just got me talking. And then after that, I thought, well, it's time for me to do what I really want to do, and that was facilitate mental health first aid, but also just support people better in the workplace. And I didn't want anyone to feel as alone or as dark as where I was in that really bad space, even though I still vividly remember it. And I had, Deb, my wife, edit that out, best friend right next to me, and I didn't even have the courage to say I need help. And I think a lot of men face that they don't want to look weak. And so that really prompted me to start the Pack Mentality Group to deliver workplace sessions around that psychosocial hazard awareness, but also mental health awareness, and facilitate the mental health first aid courses, which I love doing, love being a performer. And it just evolved from there. And 2.5 years on, I'm going to the next phase, which will be really exciting, about the on-site wellbeing support. So that was the trigger, I think, was that really probably the lowest point that I was within an inch of ending my life if it wasn't for Lifeline to be able to just talk me through it. And it was amazing. It wasn't fun, but it changed my life in a very literal sense, created the pack. That is, I've always been fascinated about wolves and the pack nature of it. I started a wolf pack thing back in 2011 with some mates, where blokes just go away and we just, like a Bucks weekend without the naughty stuff, and where we just go camping, and that sort of evolved as well. And I wanted an antidote to the black dog, because a lot of people focus on the black dog, which I find offensive because I love dogs. So we've got to change that to the black demon or something. I don't know. Sorry to all the Buffy fans out there. And yeah, so I thought, the pack. There's something about the pack, particularly for men, to protect each other and just, I'll say, comfort each other and just listen to each other. So the whole pack theme created from there, and I thought that would really resonate with a lot of people, that the wolves protect each other from that said black dog. That was the antidote to the black dog is the way I looked at it. And I thought, well, let's educate people with the mental health first aid, the psychosocial hazards awareness sessions that I run in corporates. And this morning I was at a Rotary event presenting to them about mental health in the workplace and my story and so forth. And it's just grown from there. So next 2 weeks, I'm on site with a mining company to provide what I call a wolf chap, which is like a chaplain without the religion or altar boys. Edit that one out.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry, that just slipped. And yeah, so that starts where I'll be on site meeting people where they're at before it gets to a point where I was, because sometimes there's such a delay in getting to see help with, say, EAP as an example. So I'm not there to replace EAP. I want to be the conduit between the workspace and EAP or professional help, and physically being present on site, particularly in a FIFO environment, I think will work. There's a lot of HR people who thought this is just what we need. EAP is just so hit and miss. And yeah, I've had some real horror stories about EAP. So I think that can be improved, but I want this to be a stepping stone to getting professional help in a very safe, non-judgmental way, as corny as that may sound, but being physically on site in the bright blue high-vis, so I stand out from the yellow high-vis of this particular mine site. And I'm so excited about that because I think it's filling a real void out there, and backing that up with my own style of social media and my own little podcast, which both my listeners love. And hi, Mum. And yeah, so it's starting to evolve. And you and I have had business discussions previously offline around, the grind that is growing a business, particularly with some of the work that I'm trying to do. There's a lot of mental health out there, but not so much for the men's side of things. I think that is growing and it's wonderful. We've got the Male Hug, Men's Talk over in WA, the Men's Table, Men's Shed. All those things are starting to really get a lot more airplay now, which is wonderful. I've got my Palmy Army here in Brisbane every month, and it's really just trying to give men a voice to feel heard. I think men want to be seen, they want to be heard. Like everybody, we've all got that inner child that just wants people to see and hear them and know that they've got your back, and help them get to a place where they can receive help if they need it. I just don't want any man or woman to feel I did on that night I contacted Lifeline. I think it's just not how life should be. And that was a whole gamut of different things that were adding on my mind on that night. But a lot of it was driven by the expectations I thought were on me, which was false, that false narrative inside, but also where I thought I should be as a man. That, yeah, it was an interesting night, but I'm grateful for it, that it's prompted me to be able to get out there and provide some help to other men and women who just need a voice, just need someone to listen to them. I'm not a doctor or a psychologist, and I say that repeatedly, but I'm there to listen as a mental health first aider to get them to appropriate professional help or whatever it might be. And I'm just loving it. I'm absolutely living the dream, loving the 2-minute noodles. But
aren't they the best?
Yeah.
But it's purposeful.
But it is purposeful. And I think I'm on the cusp of something really big with the Wolf Chap and Wolf Angel. So I've got a Wolf Angel with me. She's actually a psychologist, but she's going to be there for the females on site in that heavily male-dominated area of construction and mining. And so she'll be the Wolf Angel that the women on site can go to and say, look, I'm just having a really tough time fitting into the site, or whatever it might be, just to decompress before it gets out of hand. Because I think mental health in FIFO workers, as we all know, is quite extreme. And I'm hoping that this will be one of the many methods to be able to help people decompress and get help.
So thinking back to your own journey and now also having spent so much time helping others, one of the things I often get asked or comes up in conversation is, what are the signs? It's really, I think loved ones want to know, how do I know? As a wife, as a mother, how do I know?
Yeah, that's a funny one, because we're working in an area of grey when it comes to this stuff. There's an exercise I get people to do in both my awareness sessions and the first aid courses is stand in front of each other for a few minutes, take the view in respectfully, and then turn around, change three things and try and spot those three things. So there are always very subtle changes that people might do. So it's training your mind to look at the subtle cues. They may not always be physical. They could be behavioural as well. There could be some subtle, sudden shifts in behaviour. Like there might be someone that is quite introverted that suddenly becomes quite verbose and extroverted and happy all of a sudden. You think, oh, that's quite a big shift. Self-care is another one, or self-hygiene is another one, that you might have someone in the workplace or at home that is normally quite well groomed, and then all of a sudden they stop getting their regular haircut or even having a shower, or you can smell them on the other side of the room. Whatever it is, there is a shift in that level of self-care. There could be some other subtle signs that they withdraw as well, is another big sign that, and I'm guilty of that as well. When I do fall into a bit of an area of struggle, I do withdraw. So that's something that is a bit of a sign that I find with some people. Stop doing hobbies, or there's something that they normally find great interest in, and then they stop doing that. And there's some of the very subtle signs, or there might be talk about, what's the point? Helplessness. Oh, I'd be better off if, I wasn't here, or talk of not being here could be a very subtle sign. There's always signs there, but they're just so subtle, and even trained psychologists and therapists may not be able to pick it. And I show a photo as part of myself. I should have brought that in, but I show a photo of my wife and I at an engagement party, and that was roughly a week before I contacted Lifeline. You wouldn't even know. I was pulling a face and my 20 chins are sticking out and I'm going cross-eyed. It was a really silly village idiot photo, but on the surface you would not know. You wouldn't even hesitate to think that, oh yeah, Nick's got something dark going on inside. People don't know, and people hide it very well. And I think that is very hard to spot for some people. But to me, the biggest thing I've been aware of is the shift. There is a shift in behaviour or activity that someone is doing. Could be a bit of an indicator of, whether it is the language they're using or the body language, or they're just withdrawing, and not kids, staying in their room for X amount of time playing games. Just to withdraw and get away is often confused for adolescent behaviour or something like that. So it's just that shift in behaviour. If something's not right, then to be able to talk to people about it and use those I statements, I think is very important. That I've seen this, or I've observed your behaviour as being different. It changes the discussion point. People aren't as defensive when you start with those I statements. So that's something I talk about quite extensively, is being very clear about those I statements, and I want to help you feel better, or helping them get to a GP as an example, which is my go-to for a lot of these things, is just having a good discussion with a GP who could refer you on to other people, or run some tests and think, yeah, actually there could be something physiological that could be going on that is driving those behaviours that are leading to that depression or whatever it might be.
So one of the things you mentioned to me a couple of days ago when we were chatting, which has sort of stayed with me, is the stats of men in terms of suicide versus women. And it was stark. I think you said it was 7 men a day.
Yep.
And
roughly 9 suicides a day.
9.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, there's 9 total on average in the recent stats. 7 of those are men. So, yeah, men are more likely to die by suicide. Women are more likely to engage in non-suicidal self-injury, such as cutting, burning, scratching, or whatever that might be. Women are at a higher risk of common mental illness due to the statistics. So that could be skewed because men don't talk as such. So a lot of the training that we do is saying that genetics, such as women are more at risk of common mental illness according to the stats. I have to be very clear about that. But when it comes to suicide, men are 3 times more likely to die by suicide compared to women. Now, whether that's just whether it is fueled by alcohol or other substances, that does have an effect. But, yeah, the stats are quite scary. Because
when you spoke about that, one of the things that really concerned me, and it's good that you're going out to site, is FIFO.
Yep.
FIFO is like, and we're going to see a lot more FIFO going forward. We've got this massive pipeline across mining resources, infrastructure, construction.
Yep.
And I think as an industry, it's personal responsibility as well to create that space for men to talk, to create that space, because it can be difficult. I have friends that do FIFO, friends in defence, and that isolation piece can be tough when you might be even on a new project where you don't know a lot of people or, you know,
absolutely.
building that community. Tell me about some of the challenges unique to FIFO workers too.
Yeah, well, that's a good one because it's you've mentioned a number of different things, particularly if it's a new role for them as well. That's a big stressor, starting a new role at the best of times with your family at home every night. It could be a big driver in stress for some people. So there is the travel component because that can be quite fatiguing. The hours that they're working, some of these shifts can be really long shifts, even with breaks throughout the day. They're finishing work after a 12-hour shift. That's exhausting for a lot of people. So you've got that remoteness of being away from your family, your people that you normally talk to. Then you're engaging in activities that are generally outside in very warm conditions. So that's contributing to the fatigue as well. So I think fatigue is the big driver there, and you don't always sleep that well in some of these camp accommodations. You know, alcohol is quite well controlled there, but if it's not, then that fuels a lot of drivers of these. Anxiety gets inflamed as well as depression. So they're away for this period of time, engaging in really heavy activity in a very warm climate. They're not sleeping. So that fatigue when they get home is combined with the guilt of being away. Yeah, they're earning good money, but there's still an element of guilt of supporting the household physically and contributing to picking up the kids, the washing, you know, those basic chores at home. So that fuels a lot of that guilt there as well, which compounds the fatigue. So I think that's a big one there, that there is no real decompression time for people that are doing FIFO, men or women, to be able to get back to reality. What's the word I'm looking for? Unfatigued, in a way that they're rested as such. And I think that is a big driver. Again, I'm by no means an academic, but that's what I'm observing, is that it's the fatigue that drives a lot of these drivers of poor mental health, and the conflict within the spousal arrangement can be quite stressful as well. That's one of the biggest drivers of, particularly in my area with men's mental health, is that conflict in the relationship can drive a lot of adverse mental health as well.
So going forward, what do we start to do? Like, tell me more about these initiatives you've created. And you mentioned something to me when we were speaking before that sort of stayed with me, and it's something that I've often thought about, is the shift now in the workplace and the pressure that puts on men as well. And what I mean by that is, you know, in decades before, men were the breadwinner. We work from home now. Now there's rising cost of living. 2 people are in the workplace. Roles have completely shifted.
Yeah.
And while the narrative has so often been on improving the gender pay gap, improving diversity, and don't get me wrong, I obviously can see the merit, of course, in all of those. One of the things is that we've talked about is that men might feel a little lost. Tell me more.
Tell me more. Love that statement. I think that it has changed, and it's a work in progress as to where men are feeling as though they do fit, because there's a lot of Gen Xers, as an example, whose parents were the boomers, who had grown up in that and were raised in that very traditional model of the father being the breadwinner and the mother being the one to run the household as such. And now it's a joint effort, and I'm not going to get into any gender arguments about that, but that's just the way it was. And now, you cited a really good reason there with the cost of living. I think it's all hands on deck for both work to bring the income in, but also to manage the household. Everybody needs to be contributing to that, and there isn't as much airplay, I think, of what men are doing. There's some really good guys on LinkedIn at the moment. One's a single dad, and for the life of me, I've forgotten his name. And he's all about that. It's highlighted when a man does something with the kids of, oh, wow, look at this dad. But it's just the normal thing to do. And yet if we make an exception of that and applaud that, then not downplaying, but it is just changing the shift that it's an exception, but it's not. It's the norm for a lot of people that, well, maybe the dad is going to be at home and the wife is out, or the partner is out working. So it's like, certainly in my own circumstances, I'm not the breadwinner at home. So that took me a little while to adjust in my mind, but that's the reality is now that we live in a society that it is a lot more balanced by way of income coming into the household It doesn't have to be that traditional model. It's changed. So I think some men still trying to grapple with that.
Yeah.
As I certainly did, but it doesn't affect me now. I'm my wife's biggest cheerleader, so I'm not too conflicted by that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I went on this, I'll never forget, I went on an executive group and I was the only woman on the group, which was actually super valuable, just listening in to some of the concerns and perspective that I'd never even realised that men dealt with, like that burden to provide and protect. And I'd never realised, like worrying about their kids, worrying about their wife, worrying about work and this obligation. Did you grapple with that yourself as well? Like you say now, she's the breadwinner and things like that as well. Did you were you finding your identity as well?
Oh, yeah, to some extent I was. It was a real challenge, but that was compounded by a number of different issues as well with the mental health side of things, as well as that finding my place in the world in general, not just at home, but in the world in general. So I don't think my example is a great one. However, as a bloke, I did struggle with feeling inadequate to some extent, that my wife is so successful in her area and she's doing very, very well. But like I said, I'm her biggest cheerleader because I'm just so proud of, what she does. But there was an initial grapple of, I don't feel adequate as well. So I think that may have compounded it, but that was on me to deal with, which I have. And
now you've turned it into something positive for other people.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing about what I do with the Palmy Army, is getting those men together to talk about this stuff and think, you know what, I'm not feeling like I'm a good dad, or I'm really struggling listening to my wife at the end of a hard day. I don't know how to, and we have those discussions on how to deal with it better and be better husbands or better dads or whatever it is, just by that simple act of talking it out. We've had one guy talk about one of his teenage kids, the battle he was having there, and there was 3 other blokes that joined in the conversation to talk him through their experiences and help him with that. So that's what I love about what I'm doing with the Palmy Army, is that we're giving guys a really good safe space to be able to talk it out and resolve it with other men that might be feeling something similar, but have advice to give and help him be a better bloke.
I just love it. I've got no other way to put it. I just love it because I think we've all seen that video where there's the first follower, right? Like somebody opens up and then someone's like, thank goodness, now I can share. I've got the same problem with my teenager. And I think, I don't know, I find a lot of the time as a woman, like if I have a problem, I'm quite happy to be vulnerable and share and call a friend and go out there and go, this is an issue I'm dealing with. And my husband I think isn't necessarily the same. Like there are differences often how I find he will go and play sport and he will find his sense of community there. And I'm sure for a fact he probably whinges about his wife that loses her keys in the freezer, or all the sorts of things I do to keep him 11 donkeys. There's a lot of stuff that
Sorry,
never finding them there.
Keys in the freezer. There they are.
But basically it's just that sounding board that he has with other friends and peers. And I think in such a busy society where we've got two incomes a lot of the time, men don't always have time after working for sport and all the stuff that maybe they used to do to build that community. So Palmy Army is great.
Yeah, it's only 2 hours a month, right? And when you all that up, it's less than 1% of their month in time, just to be able to be themselves. Just be is the way I try and promote it. Just be. And there's no titles. Like the Tough Guy Book Club do it really well, that they have a rule that you don't talk about work. You cannot tell people what you do for a living in that club.
Oh, I love it.
I love that. And I tried to adopt it with mine, but it just didn't work. We all knew each other and it just this defeats the purpose. But they do it exceptionally well. And I remember, because I was in it for about 6 months and the books were just too heavy for me at the end. But you go around the room and go, I wonder if he's an engineer. I wonder what he does. By default, that's what we do. You go to a party, what do you do for a living? It's the first question.
Know.
So, we've got to try and change that as an identity of what we do for a living. Well, what's important to you could be another question. What's important for you outside of home or whatever it might be that we can ask people.
What do you do for fun?
What do you do for fun is a really good one. I talked about another question this morning about what can make tomorrow better for you if they look like they're having a bad day. Look, it just changes the whole thought process for people. It's not gearing their self-worth or their identity around the work they do. A lot of career transition coaching that I did with people that have been made redundant, it was just so evident that people have attached, and we all do it, and I certainly do it, that we attach our identity to the job we have and position ourselves in society relative to it. And it's funny because as I was driving here, I saw a guy in high vis, a tow truck driver, and I thought, I wonder how people perceive that guy when he's at work, that, oh, you're just in your high vis picking up a car, compared to, say, doctor or someone like that in a different context. I think how we can judge people based on that. And that's what I loved about the Tough Guy Book Club. They really did it well, that they just took work out of the equation and guys opened up generally. It was really, really good. I loved how they did that.
I actually love it too, because one of the things, I don't know if you've found this with having your own business as well. One of the things when people say, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's a really hard question to answer. And I don't want to say sometimes, yes, I do recruitment, but no, I'm not going to try and sell you.
Yeah.
Like I'm just here as a person wanting to chat, wanting to connect.
Yeah.
But I think that when it's almost like when you say, what do you do? What's your role? It is almost like, it feels like
a bit of a positioning
it's
statement.
a positioning thing rather than a connection thing.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about, well, what do you like to do?
Yeah.
As a good question. It really gets to the heart of it. And you're right, we do subconsciously, I think we rank people or we position people relative to what we do. And yeah, I find that question very awkward. You know, every Saturday, if I'm in a different group of guys playing golf, oh, so what do you do here? I find it a really awkward question. Well, I've got my own mental health business. And you either get silence or you get, oh, great, tell me about that. And so, yeah, it is a very awkward question.
We get a similar response in recruitment, let me tell you. Depending on their experience with recruitment, I own a recruitment business. People will be like, oh, great. Other people will be like, oh, gosh, I've had bad experiences.
Used car salesman, great.
Yeah, exactly. So people have this idea often in their mind.
Yeah.
But I was sitting next to someone at this event the other day, and we were just being curious about each other. And she was in a senior role. I was in, but we'd come from different backgrounds, and like no judgment, just chatting. It was a, hey, what do you do at work? But more like, how did you get to your role? And just being curious about each other.
Yeah.
So I think if ever people do open up with that line, what do you do? I don't know about you, but I just get curious about them and kind of go, well, let's just, okay, that's what I do, but it's not who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I deflect it and say, well, I'm a male model and thank you. That's exactly the response I get, particularly from some women. They just laugh and just say, you're not a male model. But
that's not why I can just picture you doing that.
Yeah, well, thank you. Oh, thank you. Good recovery.
Show me, what's the Zoolander face?
No, I'm not doing the Zoolander. Not doing the Zoolander face. But yeah, it's funny that it is usually the first question that people will ask you. And I think we really need to change that, because some people may hate their job and yet they have to relive it every time they're asked, what do you do?
Why do we have to be judged for what we do as well? It's not.
I think it's just the human condition. It's all about sizing people up from
and
those
packs,
cave
right?
days. Exactly. Where do you fit? And I think we need to change that. And that's why, particularly like I said, the Tough Guy Book Club do it really well. It just removes that hierarchy. Certainly at the Palmy Army, I try not to encourage people to talk about their work, but maybe that's what they need to get out, right? They might be having issues at work as well. It's not just about issues at home.
It's not. And you know what? I was thinking about this recently, and I'm being really honest here with you and a bit vulnerable. I've always felt like I don't fit in recruitment.
Yep.
Because I value different things that give me joy.
Yep.
I was a therapist, went into recruitment,
Yep.
and I love when people love their job. I love the culture. I love the joy I get is from not the figures, the money, which is traditionally what agencies, you're meant to be numbers focused. It's numbers.
It's all about the metrics. Yeah.
But what about, and so for so long I fought that, and I was like, I don't fit here. I was a coach. I was like a therapist before, but for some reason I loved it still. Like I really, as you know, I love it. Like I really enjoy it. But then I realized that what we do isn't who we are, and we should be able to bring who we are to work in our own bloody way.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more on that. Like I was just saying, around our whole society is driven about what people do and where they fit.
And there's no one way of doing something as well.
Absolutely.
No, you've worked in recruitment as well, and you were always really values-led. I think that's where we connected.
Yeah. The money side of thing was a byproduct of just delivering that level of genuine, I think, empathy, because when people are looking for a role, they're quite vulnerable as well because they have to lay it all out on their CV. They have to update their LinkedIn if they do their LinkedIn. And I try to do it differently. And you're right, I felt that I didn't fit particularly in agency. In talent acquisition, I felt I fit more because I tried to get more involved in the culture of the business. And like when I worked at Boeing, I was social club there and became the president of the social club for a few weeks before I left. And that was my focus about it. And I think that interfered with some of the work that I was doing at the end of my time there, because I was just more focused on people's well-being.
Which then starts
and
to
now
tell
here
you.
And now, that's the beautiful thing about what I'm doing now, because I'm living fully aligned to my values, as well as being my authentic self, being the LinkedIn tart that I am. People see that because that's me, and I don't have a manager or a leader going, "Oh, Nick, that style probably doesn't work outside of this team," which I've had a leader do that once. And I thought, I felt really confronted by that, and thought, but that's how I deal with people. That's how I manage relationships with people. Yet you're telling me not to be myself. And that was one of the straws on the camel back for me, that I thought, I don't fit in this environment. But I had these expectations that I thought were on me, and that compounded the whole thing because I wasn't living true to my values, or I wasn't being authentic. And that was a big driver. So back to your original question, I think it was the misalignment that really drove a lot of accelerated my slide into the abyss.
And this is why I bang on about it all the time, and I really believe it. Getting the right fit for someone, job-wise, career-wise, and also getting out when you know it's wrong.
Yep.
Don't stay there if you are miserable because it's a paycheck. And I get it. Like, it might take some time, but I don't know. We've only got one life, right?
Yep.
Or
do we?
I knew this would be fun.
I am becoming very spiritual. But anyway, you're right.
Well, you know what I mean? One life in this sphere or this world that we're in right now.
Yeah.
And we will often count that we might have it tomorrow and we might not, at the end of the day.
Well, you don't know. It's funny, I was talking about this before, that I was playing golf with a gentleman a few weeks ago, and then last week when I logged onto the golf website, it had valet to him. And I just thought, I didn't think he was that old. He was involved in a bicycle accident and died. And okay, he was older than me, but it was such a shock. And it took me a while to reconcile that in my mind, because he was playing golf with me one minute, the next minute gone, right? So you're right, life is far too short to be in a role that is making you unhappy. And the golden handcuffs, as they call them, you see that in mining in particular. It is great money. However, there is a huge cost to it. And we're seeing that in the impact on the mental health, but also financial. People get over their head. And if, the property market was to fall in Brisbane, there'd be some people in a lot of strife. So I think, it's great, but it's a poison chalice for a lot of people that may not be able to cope with the sudden rise in income and get themselves into trouble, which drives a lot of mental health issues. I work with a financial coach that I've had on my own show. He talks around the impact on bad financial decisions with mental health as well. So there's a number of different factors that drive it. And that's ripe in the FIFO side of things as well.
And it's so multifaceted when you start to unpack it, the marital side of things, the financial. So there's so many different things. Share with me some of your success stories, because I love hearing where you've seen, and I know there's many, where you've seen, whether in Palmy Army, whether your work on site, and obviously not mentioning names, but where you've seen you turn people's lives around.
I guess I see it more when I take my little spaniel into the city to give away free hugs with my professionally written free hug sign that I have next to me to capture those commuters getting off the train, doom scrolling as they do. The minute they look up and see me with the pup, their whole demeanour changes. So I see that firsthand, that you just bring a little bit of kindness into the world. You can see it instantly. Like, there's a lot of people that get off that train at Anzac Square in Brisbane and see me and Obi and think, dog, and they're happier. I guess from a facilitation perspective, facilitating the mental health first aid, there's a lot of people thinking, wow, we just don't talk about this at home or at work because it's so hidden. I did some work over in the South Pacific, and some of the locals over there that I facilitated the course with said, culturally, we don't talk about this. It's an unwritten thing that you don't talk about it. So getting people to talk about it has been a really important thing for me. I don't always see it on LinkedIn, but I'm quite vulnerable, if that's the word, on LinkedIn, I'm quite open about my own battle, my own journey, as I call it, and people respond to that, but I don't actually see that. I get the odd email saying, thank you for talking about this. I had one lady reach out and say, you've just saved my marriage. I thought something was going on with my husband and he missed my birthday, but after seeing your post, I had a chat with him. It turns out that he was in need of some mental health support. I thought, wow. And I've taken a screenshot of that message from her, that it had a direct influence on someone thinking, wow, maybe there's something wrong with my husband because he's been a bit standoffish lately. And so by me talking about my own experience in it, encouraged her to talk to him, and it turns out that he needed help. And missing her birthday wasn't an intentional thing. It was just that he was so wrapped up in his own inner battle that he'd withdrawn, one of the other signs, and she didn't ask the question initially, but she did, and then got him help, and she was very grateful for that.
I know you're going to go out to site and you've been doing some work on site in the mining and construction space. What are some tips that you would give people, having been through the journey yourself? And obviously, very clear, this is not, if you need professional help, we will have links of this podcast. This is not by any way mental health or professional advice. This is purely tips that you can take on. How can people look after their well-being?
Well, certainly from my own experience. Now, this works for me. It may not work for other people, but connection is something really important to me, and that's probably selfishly why I started the Palmy Army, why I started the monthly Mary Meander, to get people out in nature walking and talking. So for me...
If I can do it, you can.
Yes. It's a hell of...
It's been a while since I've been...
Well, it's not that bad, actually. It's just the last few hundred metres up to the summit.
It is that little thing where you just go, I thought I had this, and you hit this spot, and you're like,
and if you've got a heart rate monitor, it's...
you're like, then you're fine.
Yeah. And you look at the summit, and it's a beautiful view. And I wanted to share that with people. So for me, it is connecting is a really important thing. For those that are on site in a mining environment, it's really, look, everyone's different. Some people respond to some downtime by themselves, reading or whatever they do, but others might just, you know what, I'll go to the mess hall or whatever it is and strike up a conversation with someone I don't normally talk to. Just engaging in a conversation is something that's helped me. Certainly playing golf, not all the time does it help. It has been a really powerful thing for me, just reactivating a hobby that had laid dormant for quite some time. Even making model aeroplanes really helped. So it's really trying to reconnect with that inner child that may have enjoyed doing something that maybe, it's okay to build Lego as a 50-year-old male. That's your thing. Right, embrace that and go with it. So it's really finding those things. Talking to, if you have a significant other, is being honest and having those conversations with your significant other in an honest way to say, I've really been struggling with a few things. That has really been a powerful thing for me, to be more open and sharing those concerns rather than feeling that I'm going to look weak or she's going to leave me or whatever it is. It's having that open and honest conversation with those closest to you. Even reaching out to a mate and saying, I'm not doing good. You'll be surprised how many of your mates will come back and almost call you or even drop in, your front door and say, I'm here, let's chat. I'm lucky that I've got some really good friends that will just stop and listen. They want to hear your story. They don't want to hear your obituary, as extreme as that may sound, but people want to hear your story. And it's hidden out there. We don't realise that people want to help. I don't know if that's a function of COVID, where people became more empathetic around things, but I've found in my own experience and seeing with others that people want to hear your story. And the biggest shift for me was when someone said, but wouldn't you want to help a friend if they were struggling? And I didn't even hesitate. Of course I would. Imagine if your friend was struggling, how would you react to that? It's exactly the same way that they would react to you. And we don't know that. We don't think about that. We just think that we're a burden or the world is better off without us. It's not. People want to hear your story, and yet we don't realise that. I still don't realise that at times, thinking, I don't want to interrupt my mate Matt because he's got a really busy job and kids and everything. I don't want to interrupt him. The minute I spoke to him and told him I was struggling, bang, he's on the phone.
They want to help you.
They do. People want to help more than what we realise. And we just have this thing in our mind that we are a burden and people don't want to help. They've got too much other stuff going on, because when we see social media, everyone's doing everything and anything
The highlight
at the
reel.
moment. Yeah, the highlight reel. People are busy, and we think that, well, maybe they don't want to help us, or they can't, or they don't have the capacity to help us. And there's embarrassment, there's shame, there's stigma, all that stuff wrapped up, and we think, oh, it's just easier just to suffer in silence.
And I think we also make the mistake of looking at people and thinking because they're busy, they're okay.
Yeah.
And definitely not the case that I've seen. It's often a mask.
One of the first things we do in mental health first aid is we've got a picture of 3 different types of masks that, like a sculpture, it's a beautiful bit of artwork, but it adequately describes people in life, the different masks that we wear. You don't know what's going on. We really don't know. You could have the world's best couple, as a mate of mine. I just thought, well, they'll be together for life. They're now divorced. And it was awful. And you would never pick it. Look at their Facebook or Insta, whatever it is, you would never pick it.
You wouldn't. And the more you talk about, when you bring Obi to the city, when you talked about the doom scrolling and things like that, I think we're all craving connection.
Yep.
Because what's changed, I still remember as a child, I grew up in a regional town in Queensland, and going to the fish and chip shop.
Yep.
Everyone would say, hi Lauren, how are you?
Yep.
Like there would be this connection at so many different points in my day. Local fish and chip shop. You go to the grocery store. You're probably going to see someone you know. You have a chat with them. There are these multiple connection points we have with familiarity, and we're connecting with other people. We don't have that anymore.
Nope. Drive past a bus stop. What do you see people doing?
They're all on their phones. I will often put my phone away and just sit in a waiting room or sit somewhere and try and connect. And it's generally older people who might give me a smile. And often I had the best chat to someone on a plane. And she was a teacher's aide, and she was telling me, she almost just unloaded everything that she was struggling with the education system. And at the end she says, oh my gosh, it's just so good to have a chat.
Exactly right. We're all the same.
We are craving connection. We're meant to connect.
Yep, absolutely. I think we're all cut from the same cloth, and you watch people and we're all the same. We all have a common element of struggle in some way, shape or form. And that's something that I spoke about at a Rotary breakfast this morning is, if you're having a conversation with someone, get rid of the phone, because even having it in view somewhere, whether it's on the desk or whether it's in view, it's always going to be, in a subconscious way, the priority for the other person's going to be thinking, if that phone goes off, what's going to happen? You're going to look at it. You're going to be distracted from them. So that's something I try and encourage people to do in the mental health first aid, is just say, get rid of your phone, put it in your pocket, get it out of sight, because it's become such a thing in society that even if it flashes and the screen goes off, you watch people's ability to focus on the conversation after an alert comes on their phone, even if it's on silent. They'll see the flash, they'll go and they'll do the double take. They'll go, oh, you've lost them. So get rid of your phone when you're having a conversation with someone. It makes a huge difference. Even like I said, I think it's a subconscious thing that if the phone's not in sight, you still know that you're giving that person the attention.
Yeah.
And most people have a conversation, the phone's on the desk, in between them, that phone is still the priority. Whether you actively say it or not, it's still the priority. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
Back to your question before about advice, get rid of your phones. Have a way of, at night, is leave the phone somewhere else when you're having dinner, as an example, because we all eat dinner and scroll.
Yeah,
right?
we've got a no phones rule for dinner.
Yeah. And that's a really important thing. I heard David Shillington talk at the coffee commune one day, and he has a rule at home. They put their phones into a box and leave it for an hour or two so that they can connect as a family. And that's what a lot of us in the Gen X space would have grown up having dinner at the table.
Yes. And it's interesting as well. I think this generation is missing out. When I used to we didn't have phones back in my day. So I remember racing home, checking the answering machine to see if my boyfriend had called, right? Like you were, this generation's missing out on that anticipation. And then it just wasn't in my mind for the rest of the day. Like, no, we didn't call.
And the phone would ring and we would answer it regardless. Oh my God, the phone's ringing. We'd have to pick it up. Now people will see the phone. Oh, who's calling me? Oh, decide whether
don't
they
know the
can
number.
talk or
Send
not.
it to voicemail.
Yeah, absolutely. It has changed everything. So that would be one of my biggest bits of advice in the work is, if you're having any discussion with someone, the phone's got to be out of sight.
Yes.
Out of sight, because it is always going to be a priority for someone without them saying it.
100%. So one of the questions I always ask is, what's the legacy you hope to leave for your life's work?
That is a very good question. That's a really good one. I think for me, it's a legacy of connection that I hope that people will still be able to make time to go for a walk in nature with each other, or men will be able to come together at the Palmy Army. That would be my legacy, if someone could carry that flame and still keep connection going, because I'm concerned that, particularly with AI as an example, that we're losing that connection piece through technology. Technology was designed to help us. I think it's having an opposite effect in some areas, particularly when it comes to connecting, and we are designed and built to connect, hence the pack, shameless plug. And I think that's a really important thing that I would like to leave, is hopefully encouraging people to make time for each other on a consistent basis, not just a one-off. And that's what I love about doing the monthly walk or the Palmy Army or whatever it is that constant connection, or consistent connection, sorry.
I think that's a beautiful thing, and I agree with you. I want to see more connection. I don't want us to lose it with AI. We already have automated checkouts. We've lost so much of those connection points where we would have discussions with people. And it just takes a conceited effort from all of us to keep connecting.
Yeah, it's becoming harder to do that most basic of human functions. And I think, I love technology. I absolutely love it. But I think it gets in the way of people being able to talk. And that, to me, not a doctor, is connection and talking.
So the next part is the rocket round. Pew, pew, pew. Where we ask a few questions really fast just to learn a bit more around you. The first question is, coffee or wine?
Definitely coffee.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Favourite holiday destination?
Oh, God. I thought I loved Lord Howe Island, and that was a long time ago, but love Caloundra in Queensland.
Awesome. Yeah, you go there a lot. Podcasts that you listen to, shameless plug for your
Wolf
own
in
as
the
well.
Room.
Yeah, Wolf in the
World's
Room.
Best. I'm sorry, I'm not a real podcast listener. I love producing it.
Yeah, same.
But I don't really listen to podcasts. I went through a Joe Rogan phase, as we all do. And
Diver CEO.
Yeah, I think The Imperfects is a good one. Is it The Imperfects? Yeah.
Yeah. Books.
Next question. I'm
not
bad
a reader.
I hate that word literally, but I do have about 4 books on my bedside table, started and put aside. So I've just bought one for ADHD and Us, which is a really good book about understanding ADHD in the home dynamic. I've got a book called Fearless Golf that I've just started, which I want to read more about, because I think golf's a mental game. But yeah, so that would be my go-to.
And what makes you feel like you're home?
Being home with my wife and 2 dogs. That's literally being home. I said literally again. I feel like a millennial.
I literally don't know if you've said it that much.
Literally, to be honest with you. That's another one. To be honest with you. Shouldn't you always be honest?
One thing I've got told I say, and now people are listening, is, I love that. I didn't say it this episode, but often I will say it. It was a habit for a while. A couple of the listeners texted me and said, do you realise? I was like, that's helpful. Thank you for letting me know.
Wow. I haven't noticed.
Yeah. Oh, good. I love that.
There it is. Good.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We will also have links to your podcast to show guests. How can people connect with you?
Good question. LinkedIn is probably the best way.
Yeah.
And packmentality.com.au is my refreshed website. And that's it. Yeah, Nick at packmentality.com.au.
Amazing. Yep. And of course, this is not mental health guideline. We're not professionals in that area. So we will have links to Beyond Blue, Lifeline and things like that for people.
And that's another thing to add, that Lifeline, you don't have to be suicidal to contact Lifeline.
No.
They've got counsellors there that if you've had a mental health conversation with someone, as an example, and it's a bit heavy, get in touch with Lifeline and they'll talk you through it and help you decompress. Yeah, sorry, you just said Lifeline. Got to make that distinction there.
It's perfect. I'm glad you shared that. Thank you so much for coming as a guest.
Pleasure.
I had a great time. Never doubted that I wouldn't.
Thank you for the coffee.
You're welcome.
Wine.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
If this episode gave you new insights, don't let them go to waste. Take action. Apply them. And if you want more insider strategies from the best in construction and infrastructure, make sure to subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the leaders who open the most doors aren't waiting for opportunities, they're building them.